talk fantasy whenever there's a big trade, and that one yesterday was certainly a fun one. We had Rob Gronkowski sent to Tampa Bay. It's always great to talk fantasy football when you're talking about Rob Gronkowski. We thought the Hall of Fame clock was on Gronk after he retired prior to last season, but here we go. He's back in the NFL, getting traded to Tampa Bay to join his buddy Tom Brady. The Bucs get Gronk in a 7th. The Patriots get a 4th-round pick for essentially nothing. They weren't counting on Rob Gronkowski, and we get to break it all down from a fantasy perspective. I'm Jamie. That's Dave. Let's Heath. Let's get right to it. Dave, Rob Gronkowski's fantasy value in 2020 is what?
It's top 10. I mean, we're talking about a tight end that's got a chance to score 8 times at least. That's one every other game. That's pretty damn good for any tight end outside of Kelsey, Kittle, and Ertz. The concern I have is how many catches can he realistically get in an offense that's got Chris Godwin and Mike Evans? How healthy can he be? The last time we saw him, he was making a couple of downfield catches in the Patriots' last Super Bowl win, but he was still pretty slow. If he's leaner, maybe he's a little bit faster, but I'm going to err on the side of caution here, Jamie. I think he's no better than 10th among tight ends to draft this year in fantasy.
I put him at 10, and it feels icky. He just did not look good in 2018. Like you said, a lot of mouths to feed. Let's not forget, Bruce Arians, while he will use all of his weapons, he doesn't necessarily feature the tight end. And so that's something that's going to have to change in this offense. And so here you see where he sort of stacks up from a consensus ranking for us, behind some of the guys that you would expect, as Dave alluded to, Kelsey, Kittle, Ertz, Andrews, Waller. You know, these are the guys that you would expect to come off the board ahead of him. But I think you'll see him go somewhere around 8 to 12, depending on how excited people will be. For me, it feels a little bit more like a bust, but it's hard to get past Gronk being in the NFL. Heath, you're our Dynasty guy, so what's Gronk's Dynasty value for people that are looking at it? Are you just taking it a year at a time, or are you looking at it maybe if he's going to stick around as long as Brady's going to stick around?
I think I'm just taking it a year at a time. Now, Tom Brady, I believe, signed a 2-year contract. So maybe Gronk's coming back for 2 years. That wouldn't be all that surprising. But with a player his age, I mean, the next injury could be the last injury always. So you just have to look at him as someone in 2020. While I mostly agree with you guys that he's a low-end tight end, he's a low-end number 1 tight end because his production could fall off the face of the earth. I still think he has the upside to be a top 5 guy if everything goes right. So he has some value for sure, but only for a team that's in win now mode.
And Heath, we've talked about this a lot throughout the offseason, that continuity is going to be very key for a lot of these teams, especially when guys are switching teams, the rookies coming into the NFL. Part of this could be a benefit to Rob Gronkowski, the fact that he knows Tom Brady and the history with those two guys, as opposed to Brady not working with Godwin, working with Mike Evans. So we'll see how that sort of unfolds. And let's talk about Tom Brady. He was a guy that we were looking at as a number 1 quarterback. He struggled last year as well, did not have Gronk. That was a big part of his struggles with the Patriots. But Heath, when you're looking at Brady now, how much of a boost does he get with just the added weaponry of another playmaker on the field to join Evans, to join Godwin?
I gave him a little boost, but he's in kind of a weird spot right now. There's this tier after you get through the top 7 or 8 quarterbacks that everybody really likes, where you've got the older quarterbacks, Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford. And I think Brady now is pretty clearly at the top of that tier. You can put him as high as 8th and feel good about it. No matter who they add, though, it's really hard to get him into that next tier because everyone above him does something with their legs, and Brady's just not going to do that.
I like how you left out Aaron Rodgers. That's where we are with Aaron Rodgers. We forgot about him in terms of the old guy crew. He is over 35, but maybe he's just the younger of the bunch there. He's in that Stafford age range. But yeah, I'm with you. I think Brady falls in line with those guys, and you sort of lead us to our next topic. And I know, Dave, you're very excited about Kyler Murray, and I think we're all somewhat excited about Josh Allen. Heath alluded to it because of what he does with his legs. Those two guys, in terms of Murray and Allen, 2 and 3 in terms of rushing production from the quarterback position. We all know that they trailed the great Lamar Jackson last season as the MVP. Is there any chance that we could see Brady, I don't know if we're going to rank it this way, but Brady may be drafted ahead of Kyler Murray, drafted ahead of Josh Allen, just because hype surrounding his name, hype surrounding Gronk? Can you see Brady sort of leaping over the 2 youngsters?
Well, let me drizzle a little bit of gasoline on that hype and really set it on fire. Josh Allen will eat Tom Brady's dust this year. Brady, more passing yards than Josh Allen. That's easy. More total touchdowns than Josh Allen. It's a little bit harder. More rushing. No, I can't go that far. Josh Allen will have more rushing yards than Brady. But I think adding Gronkowski, I said it, at least 8 touchdowns. That's got to be what? At least 4 more touchdowns than what O.J. Howard would have given. And as of now, guys, O.J. Howard is still on the team. So is Evans and Godwin. There are going to be a lot of touchdowns to go around. And I think it's easy to pencil in at least 4,000 yards for Brady. I'm excited about him. I've got him ranked behind Deshaun Watson and Drew Brees, but ahead of Josh Allen, ahead of Aaron Rodgers, ahead of Matthew Stafford and Carson Wentz. I kind of can't believe it myself, but I think this is huge for Tom Brady, the weapons that he has around him, and the fact that defenses are going to have a hard time defending all the options in the Tampa Bay's pass game.
Oh, there's definitely a lot to like. It's just a matter of, I think that the fun one is certainly Allen. I think you can make a case. I know you would take Brees over Brady. I think Heath and I would take Brady over Brees, and I think we all have them the same range, 8 or 9, depending on which rank list you look at. But the Allen one's going to be fun because how much rushing will Allen continue to produce, and what will the addition of Stephon Diggs mean for him? And this is kind of the conversation we were talking about. A guy going to a new team. We saw Brady kicked out of a park. He's not even allowed to throw in open fields yet because of what's going on with the quarantine stuff. So will he have time to actually get on the same page with Godwin, same page with Evans, and more importantly, same page with Bruce Arians? So lots to like about Brady. It's going to be fun to see what the average draft position tells us in terms of Brady versus Josh Allen. Let's look at those wide receivers because they're obviously elite. They were both special last year in terms of Godwin and Mike Evans. You alluded to this, that O.J. Howard's still on the roster, but we're expecting maybe a corresponding move prior to the end of the weekend that they may move on from O.J. Howard and get some draft pick compensation now that they have Gronk. But you look at these two guys, Dave, I'll start with you on Godwin. We've been excited about him for 3 years now. He delivered last year, but we're excited about him again. Or is there a reason to sort of temper that expectation because now Gronk is on the team?
I think it hurts his touchdown upside. I think we're looking at Chris Godwin probably settling in around 7 or 8 touchdowns, similar to Rob Gronkowski, and that number would obviously go higher if Gronk were to miss playing time. But I think he's going to be the one most likely to see easy coverage in this passing game. You really think that they're going to leave Gronk wide open or in single coverage? Defenses would be a little silly to do that. And Mike Evans going downfield, defenses are going to have to respect the deep ball. So those short underneath targets that kind of went to Julian Edelman and Wes Welker for all those years in New England, I'm expecting them to go to Chris Godwin. And I think his catches and yards will be real close to what he had last year. It's the touchdowns that are going to come down.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see again where Godwin goes. We saw him in a mock draft that we did on Tuesday. This was before the Gronk news. He went as the second receiver off the board. That's where his hype has been because Brady likes those underneath throws like Dave alluded to, and that's where Godwin's going to live. He's going to not necessarily be the same type of receiver like Julian Edelman or Wes Welker, as you've come to know with Brady throwing to his underneath guys, but certainly has that type of potential to be a high-volume receiver. But I think Godwin going in the middle of the first round still way too soon. I would take him toward the back end of round 1, beginning of round 2, depending on how the draft unfolds and certainly the format that you're talking about. And Heath, you've been sort of banging the drum about Mike Evans falling a little bit with Tom Brady on the roster. Now I think you're going to have him falling a little bit further. Tell us where you're going to see Evans going now that Gronk is there.
Yeah, I was trying to hold back from banging that drum because I wasn't quite sure if whether Brady couldn't throw deep or just chose not to throw deep. I still think he can, but you look at this Buccaneers offense now, they have so many options short. I really think the guy that probably stands to lose the most will be Mike Evans. I am concerned about him not being a top 12 wide receiver. You look at what Godwin and Evans did last year. Godwin per game was actually getting more targets. I view him as the number 1. They saw about 46% of the team's pass attempts last year. With Brady in Tampa Bay, you're going to see more passes get dumped off to running backs. You're going to see more passes go to Rob Gronkowski than what we saw go to the tight ends last year. And if one of those two, Godwin's or Evans, is going to lose target share, I would expect it would be Evans because of the type of routes he runs. He's actually fallen outside of my top 15 wide receivers.
Wow, that's a pretty steep tumble. He's outside of my top 12, but I think at 13 right now. So we'll see. That shakeup between 8 to 12 is going to change a lot. We'll see what happens with the NFL draft also. But Evans certainly feels like a little bit of a loser. Still a guy you could draft as a number 1 or definitely a number 2 wide receiver no matter the format. But the touchdown production could be what suffers with him, and that could drop him down just a few spots behind guys like Kenny Golladay, Amari Cooper, Juju Smith-Schuster, whoever you want to put in that category, Calvin Ridley, Cooper Kupp, a lot of those guys in that group. And Evans may be just behind them based on now more mouths to feed in this offense. Speaking of mouths to feed in this offense, we're waiting to find out again if O.J. Howard is going to be moved. I'll start with this. Do you see a situation where, Heath, there's a good landing spot for him right now in the NFL that you'd be excited about O.J. Howard?
Yeah, I can get excited about him again in Indianapolis for sure. Even though Jack Doyle is already there, that offense has thrown the ball to tight ends as much as any team besides the Eagles. So I think Howard could go to the Colts with a quarterback, Phillip Rivers, who has targeted his tight ends a lot in the past, get a fresh start with a new coaching staff, and could absolutely be a top 12 tight end once again.
and we're hearing some rumors maybe about another deal between these two teams, that New England could still be interested in O.J. Howard. Washington certainly has an opening for a tight end after Jordan Reed staying injured and then being released. Dave, is there a team that you could see O.J. Howard going to that you may say, I might take O.J. Howard over Rob Gronkowski?
No, not at all. The teams that I'm thinking of, I like the idea of him on Indianapolis. I like the idea. I'm sorry about this because I do like Jay Sternberger, but what about Green Bay with the Packers? What about Buffalo, where he kind of pushes Dawson Knox to the side a little bit? But I don't think there's going to be any spot where I'm going to feel good about catch behind his back, O.J. Howard. He was a mess last year. I think there's a maturity issue there. I know that he's got some amazing stats, the yards per target number over his career, better than Gronk's. But you know what? His averages in things like touchdowns and catches per game, not quite as good as Gronk's, not quite as good as a lot of other players. I'm not excited to draft O.J. Howard no matter what team he's on.
Did make a great catch, though, at a Tampa Bay Rays game last year, so maybe he has that going for him. But we'll wait to see if he does get shipped off somewhere else, if he stays with the Bucs. Great for Tom Brady, not necessarily great for his fantasy value, and maybe another downgrade coming to all of the receiving options across the board if Howard is still there. We got a lot more Rob Gronkowski talk coming up. We're going to join his press conference with the Bucs following the big trade. But coming up next, we're going to talk rookie wide receivers. Our buddy Pete Prisco is going to join us. We're going to talk about some of the best incoming wide receivers in the NFL, maybe in a long time. CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, Justin Jefferson. A lot of talent coming into the NFL. We're going to give you the fantasy impact on these receivers next here on CBS Sports HQ.
If you're a team looking for a #1 wideout, this is the draft for you.
Looking for the end zone, CeeDee Lamb, and he'll walk in.
CeeDee Lamb of Oklahoma certainly fits that description. He ran a 4.540 at the combine, so he's fast, but what you're getting is a great, complete football player.
CeeDee Lamb makes his presence known.
He is the best route runner in this draft. He's got tremendous hands.
One of the strongest wide receivers in this draft class. He breaks tackles like nobody's business. We saw it week in, week out.
He runs a complete route tree, and most importantly, he knows how to find the end zone.
Touchdown, easy like Sunday morning.
So in a league where you can never have enough playmakers, CeeDee Lamb has a type of explosive ability that can help out any team that selects him.
I mean, how are you not fired up watching that and seeing what that kid could do and getting excited about the NFL draft? And I know one guy that's excited about the NFL draft as much as anybody. It's our buddy Pete Prisco. Pete, thank you for taking the time to join us here on Fantasy Football today. We're going to spend some time breaking down the rookie wide receivers. We're going to do it from a little different perspective. We're going to take our buddy Ryan Wilson's mock draft, his latest one on CBSSports.com, and he has 5 wide receivers going in the first round. We're going to use that as sort of a basis of some real-life scenarios here for some of the elite rookies coming into the league. We're talking about CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs. Justin Jefferson is our 4th guy, but Ryan likes Brandon Ayuk, as you see here. He's got Lamb to the Raiders at 12, Jeudy to the 49ers at 13, Ruggs to the Broncos at 15, and then a surprise, Brandon Ayuk to the Eagles and Justin Jefferson to the Vikings at 22. So guys, let's start by looking at the guys at the top here. Lamb and Jeudy have sort of been back and forth. Maybe you like Lamb, maybe you like Jeudy, maybe you just want to see where they end up. Well, here's that real life scenario that we're talking about. Pete, when you see Lamb to the Raiders and Jeudy to the 49ers, which of those do you like better?
I probably like Jeudy to the 49ers better. I think he's a better receiver. I think he's more polished. I think all 3 of those top receivers are close, but I think Jeudy is one of those guys that, man, he runs routes and you just go, wow. I mean, that's how good he is at it. And in fact, he's better than a lot of NFL guys running the routes, and I think that's half the battle. Now, I have talked to a lot of personnel people who are concerned about his size, that he's kind of frail and will be able to handle the press coverage in the NFL. I don't think it'll be a problem. I like Jeudy a little bit better to the Niners.
Interesting. That's probably something you're not going to hear from the rest of us in terms of liking Jeudy over Lamb. Not that we don't like Jeudy, but I think we've said it enough, whether it's our Fantasy Football Today podcast or here on HQ, that we are very much in the Lamb side of things. I think that's a little funny way to say it, but we like Lamb a little bit better than Jeudy. Heath, when you see these moves, Lamb to the Raiders, Jeudy to the 49ers, which is the better fantasy move? Who's going to have the better fantasy season in 2020 and maybe for Dynasty as well?
Yeah, this is tough because I agree with you. I like Lamb better than Jeudy as a player, but I think I like the landing spot better for Jeudy. I'm just not sure if Lamb goes to Oakland, I assume he's going to have to mostly play outside with Hunter Renfrow in the slot, Darren Waller playing over the middle. Derek Carr does not look down the field. Everything's short. I'm just not sure that Lamb will get the target share that he deserves in that first year. I think there's a chance Jeudy could go to San Francisco and be the number 2 option behind George Kittle.
To be fair, Tyrell Williams, a downfield threat, did score 4 touchdowns in his first 4 games with the Raiders, so maybe that's something that CeeDee Lamb can hang his hat on at the start of the season. Tyrell Williams had a hard time staying healthy, and I think CeeDee Lamb, slightly better player than Tyrell Williams. But I get your point. We'll see if these do things come to fruition, and these are the landing spots for these 2 teams. Let's look at Ruggs at 15 to the Broncos. Pete, you said this time and time again, you think this is a likely scenario to actually happen with the Broncos looking at the speedy receiver from Alabama. I know you like this destination. Tell us why.
Yeah, I think he might end up being the first receiver pick, to be honest with you. And, you talk to a lot of these guys, and they are just amazed at how fast he is. And when you look at that Denver offense, the one thing that stands out is they lack deep speed. And I think Sutton's a really good receiver, but he's not a speed guy. Drew Lock can really get the ball down the field. They need to get speed. So I think Ruggs would be the perfect addition to that offense. I'm not sure he's going to be there, to be honest with you. When I first started doing this process, doing these mock drafts, I thought it was a good chance he would be there at 15. I'm not sure that's the case right now. I think there are a lot of teams high on Henry Ruggs, and I think he might go before that.
Okay, so if this does happen, let's just say not the way Pete is painting it, that Ruggs does end up to the Broncos. We know he's going to have to share the field with some talented guys as well, with Cortland Sutton and Noah Fant. Dave, I don't think anybody's going to take Ruggs over Lamb or over Jeudy, even if these are the landing spots for those 3 guys. But could you see a situation where Brandon Ayuk with the Eagles, or maybe even Justin Jefferson with the Vikings, leapfrog Ruggs from a fantasy perspective?
I do, and it's because I think that Ruggs going to Denver, remember, Denver could always trade up to get Henry Ruggs too. They've got a bunch of 3rd-round picks. Ruggs will do a lot for that offense besides just catching the ball and making plays downfield. He'll open things up underneath for Sutton, for Noah Fant, for the run game. He'll make Drew Lock look better, but I don't think he'll be very consistent for fantasy, and I don't think the numbers will be great in his rookie year in the Mile High City, whereas Ayuk is the number 2 in Green Bay. That's interesting because I think he could be plugged into the slot right away there. Justin Jefferson in Minnesota would also be interesting. I think Jefferson is a slot-ready NFL receiver, probably the most slot-ready guy outside of Lamb and Jeudy, but I think he'd be exclusively in the slot. It would push Adam Thielen to the outside, and it would open up Jefferson to get about 50 catches there. It's a close call between all 3. I think I'll say it like this. PPR, give me Jefferson. Non-PPR, I'll give Aaron Rodgers the edge and take Ayuk. Either way, Ruggs not the guy that I would take amongst those 3.
All right, just to clarify, though, we have Ayuk and Ryan's mock going to Philadelphia, not to Green Bay. So that's the scenario for.
You know what? Same thing, though, because Philadelphia, Green Bay, strong-arm quarterbacks looking for downfield options. I think Ayuk would actually get more targets. I'm going to amend my answer. I'm sorry, Jamie. Ayuk is going to be at the top of both of those lists if he goes to Philadelphia.
No, you're not defending me. You're just defending Ryan for not reading his mock and seeing where these guys end up. Look, I'm excited about this next question because if you look over Pete Prisco's shoulder and ignore the bobblehead there, that's a little bit of a weird bobblehead. But look at the helmet that he's got there. It's, Pete's a noted alum from Arizona State, and Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State as well. Pete, can you see Ayuk as the 4th receiver off the board ahead of Justin Jefferson going to the Eagles? And then what do you think about the landing spot for Jefferson with Minnesota if that comes to fruition?
I think it's possible, but I still think Jefferson and all the guys I've talked to, they have him as the 4th receiver. And the other thing about Ayuk is he only did it for 1 year at Arizona State. Now, having watched all of his games, he was really good. And he can get he has that breakaway speed, and I think he's going to be a big-time player. He's a great kid, by the way, absorbs everything. He's come new to football. He came to football late. I think he'll be a great player. But I don't think he's going before Jefferson. I'll be honest, that's my take on it. I don't think he will. Could he be a better player than Jefferson? Absolutely. I think in that Eagles offense, that would be great. As for Jefferson in Minnesota, I think he'd be perfect. He's a perfect replacement in that offense, and they need to get a receiver. So I think both picks would make sense. I just think Jefferson will go before him.
Glowing endorsement from one Sun Devil to the other. I love the way that goes. Heath, when you see this potential, Ayuk to the Eagles. We've said it time and time again. The Eagles are our favorite destination for a receiver for fantasy value. Would this be the case? Would you take Ayuk maybe over Lamb, maybe over Jeudy, over Ruggs, over everybody else in the class?
I just think there's a big gap. Like, I think the Eagles will be making a mistake here. I think there's a big gap between Jefferson and Ayuk, and I would not, like, just about any of these top 6 or 7 wide receivers could go to Philadelphia and vault up in our perception of them. I don't think Ayuk is ready to be a number 1 receiver in the NFL for sure. That's what Philadelphia needs right now. And so I would still go with Jefferson. And Dave said Jefferson would play exclusively in the slot. He didn't play exclusively at the slot in LSU. We've seen him play outside as well. I think they could leave Thielen inside or kind of move those guys around a little bit. And what we saw a lot when Stephon Diggs was there, and Diggs referenced it when he talked to us, when the coverage all went to him, that's when Adam Thielen had big games. And there was a year there where the coverage all went to him almost all year. What happens if the coverage all goes to Adam Thielen? Jefferson has some huge games.
Yeah, you referenced that Jefferson played outside in 2018, then they moved him more exclusively to the slot in 2019. Just keep in mind how much fit and offense and scenario matters, because as we saw last year, N'Keal Harry, Marquise Brown, those were the 2 rookies that were drafted first at the wide receiver position. Who were the better fantasy receivers? The ones that were in better situations. A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin. They were especially in terms of McLaurin and A.J. Brown, the number 1 receiver on their respective teams. If Ayuk does become the number 1 receiver for a team like Philadelphia, that could vault him ahead of those other guys in terms of production. I'm with you. I don't think I would draft him over those other guys, but I would not be surprised if just based on scenario, he is in the better situation than some of those higher profile guys. All right, let's take a look at the best of the rest. The top 4 guys, these are the ones we expect to go, and we'll throw Ayuk in there because he was in Ryan Wilson's mock draft as one of the 5 receivers off the board in the first round. But there are a lot of wide receivers in this class that could be great playmakers. As we show you the list of what we're calling the best of the rest, but these guys are going to be pretty highly touted and probably day 2 picks as well. When you start with guys like T. Higgins, Laviska Shenault, I'll get that right one day. Denzel Mims, Jalen Rhaegar, Michael Pittman. You see these guys here. I'm not going to run down the entire list. I just want to ask the guys here your favorite of this group and tell me why. Pete, I'll start with you.
My favorite of the group is Van Jefferson from Florida. I know that'll make you happy, Jamie. I just love the way this kid runs routes. I mean, and he did it against really good competition. I mean, when he lined up against the best corners, he was productive. He's coached by, he's been around his dad, who's a coach with the New York Jets, a receiver coach, Sean Jefferson, his entire life, obviously. So he's been taught how to play the position. He's not a burner, but you know what? He plays a lot faster than you would expect. I go back to a guy I covered back in the day by the name of Keenan McCardell. Keenan McCardell wasn't that fast, but he was one of the best route runners you'll ever see. I think Van Jefferson could be a lot like Keenan McCardell.
And he may go well after a lot of these guys. People may be a little bit concerned about the foot injury that he suffered at the combine. But you're right, Pete. I'm excited anytime you talk about a Florida Gator. So let's go Van Jefferson and hopefully ends up in a good spot for his fantasy value. Dave, what about you? Who's the guy on this list that you're excited about?
I like Jalen Rhaegar from TCU. Just instant speed, instant acceleration. There were times where I was watching him and I was thinking to myself, gosh, he reminds me of Jerry Jeudy. I think that he's got a great downfield presence for him. He can catch the deep ball. He can leap for 50-50 balls. Not much of a blocker. He's not going to help in the run game, but in fantasy, who cares about that? I think he's got potential to eventually be a number 1 receiver for an NFL team. And the best part about him is that the numbers that he had at TCU weren't that great. The quarterback stunk. If he had even bigger numbers, he'd probably get taken with a top 20 pick in the NFL draft. I think he's going to end up being a steal for one of these teams Thursday. Well, probably not Thursday, but Friday.
Yeah, potentially so. You know, he's been in that conversation maybe where Ayuk is going as not necessarily ahead of Jefferson, but maybe right after that to a team like maybe Philadelphia, like Minnesota, like Green Bay. You could see Rhaegar sneaking into the back end of the first round, as well as the guy that Heath is going to tell you about right now.
Oh, I love Denzel Mims. I love the size. I love the speed. I love the production at Baylor. And yes, he's a little bit older than some of these guys, not an early entry, so maybe in Dynasty he won't be quite as popular. But I think he comes prepared in 2020 to be one of the most ready-made fantasy producers. This is the guy that I think the Eagles should take at the end of the first round, and he might be a top 30 fantasy wide receiver for me.
Yeah, you've seen him maybe to the Packers as somebody who could be the complement to Devontae Adams. That could be fun as well. I like Shenault. I like Higgins. I like all these guys. I'm just so excited to see where they're going to end up. Should be fun to see how this unfolds with the NFL draft. And speaking of the NFL draft, we've got you covered better than anybody else. You don't want to miss what we have for you here on CBS Sports HQ as we got you covered started on Thursday night, Friday, and Saturday as well. Should be a lot of fun to break down the NFL draft. But coming up next, Rob Gronkowski's press conference. We're going to show you that here on CBS Sports HQ. Let's see what Gronk has to say about being reunited with Brady in Tampa Bay. Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today. We got something fun for you here. Rob Gronkowski meeting with the media, a little different way with a Zoom chat, but let's hear what Gronk has to say about joining the Bucs and being reunited with Tom Brady.
There was a good month or two where I didn't do anything, actually. My body just needed that time to rest, needed that time to heal. And I would say that I lost some weight, too, to take some pressure off my joints, to take some pressure off my body. And I feel like it was totally the right decision. And to put on 10 pounds, I'm 250, to put on 10 pounds to get to 260, I think will be pretty easy if I need to get back up there, which I feel like I kind of want to be back up in the 260 range, 265 range. I mean, it just takes a couple extra protein shakes with some extra almond butter, some extra blueberries. You just got to load it up and have a couple shakes a day on top of all your meals to put that weight back on.
All right, next up we have Mike Giardi from NFL Network.
Rob, can you hear me?
Yes. What's up, man?
Not much. Good to have you back in the league.
Thanks.
This is a bit of a pointed question coming from the New England side of things, and maybe the angle. It seemed like you, the last couple of years in particular, and even Tom the last few years when he was playing, it's hard to play for Bill, and that maybe that wore on you. And I'm just curious how much that played into stepping away, and now knowing that Tom's going somewhere else, sort of a rebirth and step back with Tom.
Coach says it all the time, man. He always says it, that it's not an easy place to play. And, I'm very thankful for the 9 years that I had with the New England Patriots. Hands down, I've learned so much under that organization. I've learned so much football from the best coach. Hands down, that will not change, the best coach in all of football, Coach Belichick. I've learned more football than I have ever had in my whole entire life under Coach Belichick, and just learning so much under just the organization of Mr. Kraft too. I mean, there's two guys that I look up to and will always look up to. I mean, they're the ones who drafted me and gave me my first opportunities ever in the NFL, and I'm very thankful for those opportunities. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's an easy organization to play for, and I've also never played for another organization. I haven't even been down to Tampa yet, so I'm not even sure what to expect. But I know that, that the New England Patriots, hands down, I mean, it is not the easiest place to play, but it gets you right. It gets you mentally right. It gets you physically right. And what I've learned there is I'm definitely going to take it with me with my future and whatever I have present to this day. I'm definitely going to take what I've learned in the New England Patriots organization under the Coach Belichick, Mr. Kraft, and everyone there, and apply it to my daily life, big time.
And next up, we have Jenna Lane, who will be followed by Mike Reese.
Hi, Rob. Welcome to Tampa.
Thank you.
Who approached who in this situation? Did you approach Tom? Did Tom approach you? And if so, what was that conversation like?
We had a little conversation. There was no pressure on either side. We actually got together a couple weeks ago. I would say actually probably like 2 months ago, just to throw the ball. I haven't thrown the football or even touched the football since last year when we threw in LA. Out at UCLA when that was news everywhere that we were throwing together. Because I always knew in the back of my mind too that I love the game of football, and if it ever sparked me again, I did want to be ready. It's not like I wanted to not be ready. So throwing the football around, working out still was definitely crucial. So we actually got together about 2 months ago, and we rarely talked about what his decision was going to be, where I'm at. But we did talk about for 1 second. I told him that we talked just real quick, like, hey, like, it's kind of getting that fire underneath me again. I told him, and I said, I'm definitely interested in your decision that you make. I mean, I didn't put any pressure on him. I said, but if there's a right opportunity out there, and you go somewhere and the opportunity is right, even if you go back to the Patriots and I feel like the opportunity is right, there's a possible chance that I will definitely love to reconnect. And that's where the conversation started a little bit. and he was all fired up and juiced up about it. So that was something pretty cool at the moment. And in the end, it happened over time, which is pretty neat.
All right. Next up, we have Mike Reese, who will be followed by Ed Encina.
Hey, Rob, how are you?
What's up, Mike? How you doing?
Hey, great to see you. Welcome back to the league. And
yes,
just to sort of build on that last answer, Rob, if Tom did come back to the Patriots, do you think that this would be sort of the result, you coming back to the league?
You know, I would have definitely looked at the opportunity for sure, hands down. You know, at that moment when he was going through that process, I remember the free agent process. I was interested to see where he was going to go. I mean, that's his decision to make. You know, I'm not the guy that's going to sit there and try to put pressure on him. But at that moment, you know, at that moment in time, I was still up in the air too. Like, I really didn't know if I was going to go or not. I really wasn't sure if I wanted to play. I had a little fire underneath me, but it would have definitely been an opportunity I would have looked at for sure, because playing with Tom is special. I mean, he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and to build a connection with a quarterback too is something special. I mean, you've seen it many times with many other players. They can switch teams, and they might not have the same chemistry as they'd have with one of their other quarterbacks. So we have a great chemistry out there, and every time we get together, it's just like, you know, the old days. It doesn't matter if we take a month off or 6 months apart. We just go out there and we're throwing the ball just like it's a normal practice, no matter what. So it just happened to be the right opportunity, I feel like, down in Tampa. Yes, Tom is definitely he was like the appetizer of the whole meal. You know, he got me hooked when he went down to Tampa. I saw what was down there, just the opportunity to go down there and play with that type of offense. I mean, they got some special wide receivers out there. They got other great tight ends. And let me tell you, I love working with tight ends too. So I'm definitely looking forward to that, working with OJ and Cam. So that's definitely going to be a special opportunity. But just blessed to be in this situation and have this opportunity. Big time, Mike.
All right, next up we have Ed Encina, followed by Dan Lucas.
Hi, Rob. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm just wondering about just your knowledge of Tampa. I know you had a house here. You know, you had some other ventures here. You know, what you know about the area, and you know how excited you are for joining this team specifically. You kind of touched on, you know, some of the weapons that there are there. I mean, how close do you guys think you are with the two of you guys? Because you add you two, and everyone's kind of talking about, you know, how good you can be. You know, how good can you be?
Well, yeah, with the Tampa area, I did have a house there back in the day. To tell you the truth, I just like Florida a lot, and that's what was really appealing to me too. That's why I bought a house there in Tampa. Actually, it was a while back ago though, and just couldn't get down there too much, so sold the house. So I kind of know Tampa area a little bit, nothing too crazy. Don't know the ins and outs like that. But I just love Florida. Love the weather down there. Love the opportunities it brings. I'm a t-shirt shorts guy rolling out of bed with the sandals. So that's going to make it easy down there in Tampa Bay. But just speaking about the offense overall, I mean, that's one thing I looked into too. Once Tom went down there, I have also looked into their offense and just saw how special those wide receivers are. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, you got Cameron Bratt, and then O.J. Howard at the tight end position too. And I just saw that opportunity. I love playing with other players. I love playing with other players that have a lot of talent. And just watching the highlights of Mike Evans and the Tampa Bay offense, it got me excited. It got me pumped up that I could be a part of that.
All right, next up we have Dan Lucas, followed by Scot Smith.
Hi, Rob. What are your new teammates in for with Tom Brady? I mean, at a practice, in a meeting, on the sidelines, what do you know about him that some of these guys maybe have never seen in their career?
You know, if we're talking about Brady, I mean, I haven't been down to the Tampa. You know, I haven't really met. I don't even think I've ever met any of the players on the active roster. I might have real quick, a couple of them on the defensive side, but other than that, I don't know any of the other players personally or anything. I don't know how the organization is ran over there, but I'm excited to get a part of it and just go down there and do my job and bring what I bring to the table at the tight end position and help out the team. But, when you go out there with Tom too, I would say it's kind of the same thing. He just brings that fire to the table. There's no time when you're going to be out at practice where it's not going to be full go, where it's not going to be the intensity level is not going to be high. You're always going to be learning with Tom. He brings that passion to the game of football, and that's what's special about him is that these players on the Tampa Bay roster are going to feel that passion for the game of football.
All right, next up we have Scot Smith, who will be followed by Luke Easterling.
Thanks, Rob. So because so much of life as a Patriot is kind of an insulated one by design, 100% football all the time, you come down to Florida, obviously you got the sun, the ocean, all the other possible distractions that about see those as things that you kind of have to take into account because that wasn't a part of life in Foxborough?
Nah, to tell you the truth, I don't think that will be a distraction at all. If anything, you can use that into your advantage to enjoy the sunshine a lot more. But like I said, we've learned many things. I've learned many things here with the Patriots organization, and that's one thing is to block out the noise. And that's one thing I'm gonna bring with me to wherever I go is block out the noise. I mean, there's no reason to listen to all the hype. Listen to everything that's going on, go out there, go down there and fall into all the distractions. No, that's not the case. You got to stay focused. You got to stay with the program and you got to stay mentally sharp and physically ready at all times and not let the distraction get to you. You got to just block them out.
All right, next up we have Luke Easterling from Sports Illustrated, followed by Steve Isbitz.
Hey, Rob, welcome to Tampa. Welcome back to the league. You mentioned the fact that you did go a long time between really doing any football work, at all. The current landscape of the world and what you're not allowed to go out and do in terms of working out and such. Do you feel like that's going to be a big challenge for you in getting ready for this season? And how are you kind of planning to attack that?
Yes, it's definitely going to be a challenge to get ready for the season. No doubt. It's a challenge every single year. It's going to probably be a bigger challenge, taking a year off and coming back. But, I've been staying active. I've been staying busy, not necessarily, I'm not going to lie, not necessarily with football stuff, but I've been keeping up my cardio. I've been keeping up staying in shape. I've been keeping up, not full-time type football lifts and all that, but I've been doing that stuff periodically there and there. And it's just going to change now that the mindset's going to have to change now that I'm going to be playing again. And that's time to start preparing. And that's also another reason why I wanted to come out of retirement now, instead of wait until and think about the decision later on when the season started. I wanted to make sure, I can get accommodated with the Tampa Bay area, when we're allowed to go down there and get accommodated with my teammates and everything, if we even have an off season. But, things are going to have to change a little bit now. I got to start getting football ready, get in the football shape and get ready to go to play some games.
All right, next up is Steve Isbitz.
Rob, your initial impressions of Bruce Arians on the little bit you've gotten to talk to him so far, and especially maybe compare him to Bill Belichick and your quick impressions of those guys against each other.
I just know that from many other players that have played for Coach Bruce Arians, they all told me that I'm going to love playing for him, and that's great to hear, and I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to meeting him in person. I've actually only talked to him for about a quick minute, just got to meet and greet each other real quick over the phone. And I'm just super excited to meet him and super excited to play for him and the Tampa Bay organization and see what it's all about. I really can't compare them. Coach Belichick and Coach Arians, I never, got to play under Coach Arians yet, but I've heard he's a football master also, and I love football. I love being around football masters when I'm in the building playing football. I love to learn from football masters, and Coach Belichick was definitely a football master, and it was an honor to learn from him a lot of the game of football. So it's just going to be cool now to go to Coach Arians and also learn from another coach that has a lot of background in the game of football.
All right, next up we have Grace Remington.
Hey Gronk, welcome to Tampa. Arians not really known for using tight ends in the vertical passing game, but obviously that's your and Brady's thing. So I'm just curious to know, what is your understanding of the influence you guys will have on Arians' playbook and your understanding of your role here?
I'm gonna be honest. We really haven't gotten that far yet. I mean, the first part was just getting traded down to Tampa, and now that mission has been accomplished. And I haven't dove into the playbook. I haven't dived or dove into the playbook yet, and I'm very excited to. I'm letting things settle down a little bit. Off-season program starts next week on the virtual computer stuff. So I'm pretty sure that's when everything's going to start getting rolling. And so we can't really, exhibit how I'm going to be used, how the offense is, because I really don't know much yet. So that's a tough question to answer right now. But, I'm sure when I get there, I want to show my talents for sure. I want to show what I can do. I want to show that I can go up the seam. I want to show that I can run an out route, in cut. I want to show that I can do what I've been doing my whole career, especially how I was when I was in the prime of going out there and making big things happen. So that's all I'm excited about, and that's all I can control. And I'm sure that if I'm running up the seam and I'm running pretty fast up the seam, that he's going to add some plays, some seam plays.
Well, there's Rob Gronkowski. It's always fun to hear what he has to say. We're going to break down what Gronk just told the media and tell you a little bit more about his fantasy value coming up here next on CBS Sports HQ. Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today. We just got a chance to hear from Rob Gronkowski as he met with the media via a Zoom chat. Let's break down what he had to say quickly here as he talked about his weight, Dave, saying he comes in at about 250 right now. He said when he finished his career with the Patriots, he was about 265. Any concern about him getting up to game shape? He said he's going to drink a lot of shakes to do it.
No, none whatsoever. I think weightlifting will also be part of the equation, and that's something he can do while in quarantine. So I would imagine Gronk will be back up to size. That issue is now out the window with Gronk.
Heath, when you hear him talking about Chris Godwin and Cameron Bratt, obviously gonna have to get a little refresher on his teammates' names of Chris Godwin and Cameron Bratt, along with Mike Evans, and he knows Tom Brady quite well. You heard him talk at the end of the press conference that we aired there about working in the seam and talking to Bruce Arians about some of those things. How do you think it's all going to work out with him fitting into this Bruce Arians offense?
It was just good to see Gronk being Gronk, and hopefully we get to see Gronk being Gronk on the football field as well. He's a lot of fun when he is healthy and he's playing his best game, and I agree with him. Like, listen, if he is old Gronk or prime Gronk, he's going to get the targets. It won't matter.
Yeah, let's talk about prime Gronk as opposed to old Gronk. He'll be 31 in May. Just to rehash what we said at the top of the show, Dave, give me the spot you have Gronk ranked and what round you would take him.
I've got him 10th among tight ends. I'm comfortable taking him toward the end of round 7 in a PPR draft.
All right, Heath, same question to you.
I've got him 10th at tight end. I probably wouldn't take him until round 9, though.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's more of a round 8, round 9 pick, but it's going to depend, I think, when the tight ends come off the board. He's ranked 10th for me, but again, it just doesn't feel like I'm all in yet. I'll wait to see how this all unfolds with the virtual offseason. As he said, the virtual computers, I think is the way he described it. So we'll see how he fits in with Bruce Arians. Obviously, he knows Tom Brady, but it's just fun to have Gronk back in the NFL. And we have a lot more football to talk about, not just about Gronk coming back to the Bucs, but also the NFL draft. You may have heard, starts on Thursday, and we have you covered better than any place else here on CBS Sports HQ. Our draft coverage starts tomorrow at 5 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock on Friday. Thursday, we got you started at 6 o'clock Eastern with us, FFT, leading into the Pick 6 podcast, and then the NFL draft coverage to get you set with all the picks for round 1. Friday will start at 5 o'clock Eastern, then the Pick 6 crew at 6 o'clock. And again, the NFL coverage will kick off once the draft starts with round 2 and round 3. And then Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, we are going to dominate the NFL draft like we helped you dominate your fantasy draft. So you want to stick with us here on CBS Sports HQ. You can also download our podcast wherever podcasts are found. Our Fantasy Football Today crew talked to Saquon Barkley today, so you want to hear that interview. We also got a chance to sit with our buddy Scott Pioli this week and Dare Ogunbowale from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers talking about what it's going to be like to play with Tom Brady. It's Tampa Bay's world, and we're just living in it with Brady, with Gronk. It's going to be fun for the fantasy football outlooks as well for those guys coming up in the 2020 season. Great Fantasy Football Today show today. We'll be back again tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Want more of the Fantasy Football Today podcast and non-stop year-round fantasy advice? It's simple. Hit the subscribe button and hang with us all throughout the year.